Okay, let's start our next video that is about Bryophyta. So we are now dealing with the Bryophyta, that is the liverworts, or it is called as Hepaticopsida. So normally in liverworts we find Riccia is the organism which is regarded as the simplest sporophytic plants among all Bryophytes. So Riccia is the simplest Bryophytes. Got it. Now let's move into its general character of liverworts. So normally in the general character, these are called as liverworts because the thallus looks like a liver-like structure. The thallus is a liver-like structure. Got it? As the thallus is a liver-like structure, so it is called as liverwort. So what is thallus? Thallus we already discussed, there is no differentiation of stem, leaf and roots. If we are unable to differentiate a plant of its stem and leaf and root, then they are called as what? Thallus. So normally it is called as no differentiation. No differentiation, got it? No differentiation of stem, leaf and root. Of stem, leaf and roots. So if we are unable to differentiate stem, leaf and root, then we call them as thallus. Got it? Now let's move. So normally what happened in the general character, the body is a thallus. It is a liver shaped like structure. Got it? And the plant body of this thallus, where we don't differentiate into roots, they contains small leaf-like structures present. They contain small root-like structures present. And these root-like structure present, these are called as rhizoids. And normally the rhizoids are unicellular and unbranched. This is very important. The rhizoids are normally unicellular and unbranched. Got it? And the scales present, they are multicellular in structure. Suppose, for example, suppose we are going for the diagram that is called as, suppose this is the Riccia diagram. Got it? So in Riccia we find what? So these are the Riccia present, and we find that the Riccia contains the rhizoids. These are the rhizoids present. And on them also we find some scales are present. So these are called as the rhizoids and these are called as the scales. So these are the rhizoids. These are the rhizoids. And these are the scales present, and these are the scales. So these are the rhizoids present, as well as we are finding the scales are present. So is a thallus organization present. Now normally the rhizoids is unicellular and it is unbranched. Normally rhizoids are unicellular and unbranched. Whereas the multicellular, that is the scales are multicellular in structure. They are multicellular in structure. The scales are multicellular and the scales provide protection, whereas the rhizoid helps in absorbing nutrients or minerals and water from the soil. Got it? So now let's move. The rhizoids are present on the ventral surface of the body. Yes, the rhizoids are present on the ventral surface, and on the margins. On the margins, we find the scales are present. And the thallus is differentiated into two zones. So normally in Bryophytes, what we find, the thallus is differentiated into two zones. For example, we find an upper zone present, and also we find a lower zone present. And below them, we find the rhizoids present. The upper zone is photosynthetic in nature. The upper zone is photosynthetic in nature, whereas the lower zone helps in storage, and upper zone helps in photosynthesis. So this is what the plant body of this particular liverwort is been differentiated. Having two zones, the upper zone is for photosynthesis, which is very green in color, and the lower zone is white in color because it helps in storage. And these are the rhizoids present and the ventral surface, whereas the dorsal surface faces towards the sunlight to prepare the food. Got it? So this is what the plant body of the liverworts looks like. So let's take an example. Suppose this is the example of a thallus. That is, it is the example of Marchantia plant, where we find this particular structure. So this particular structure is the male, this is the female structure, that is called as archegoniophore. Archegoniophore is the stalk, and this is called as archegonia. So the archegonia is the sex organ, is the gamete. This is the gametophytic plant, and archegoniophore is the stalk present, and this stalk originates from the thallus, above the thallus. And also we find here the rhizoids are present and the ventral surface, and in addition to them they undergo asexual reproduction by a special type of cup present. These are called as the gemma cup. So in Marchantia we find asexual reproduction by a special type of cup, and this plant, this particular plant is a gametophytic plant. So these are the gametophytic plant. This is the gametophyte plant, and this is the gametophyte plant of Marchantia. This is the example of Marchantia. This is the example of Marchantia. Now let's move to the lower part, and this is the type of plant. Also Marchantia gametophytic gemma cups are present, and this structure is the antheridium, the male sex organ, and this is the stalk. So this is the male sex organ that is called as antheridium. So got it? So this is the antheridium present. This is the antheridium. So antheridium is the male sex organ, and the upper one, the upper diagram, above diagram, we find that the sex organ is the archegonium, and this is the archegonium. This is archegonium, and archegonium is the female sex organ. So this is the gametophytic plant, where the plant produces gametes and in the form of, so it is a haploid plant. So gametophytic plants means it is haploid. So by mitosis it produces the gametes. Now let's move into its mode of reproduction. It undergoes asexual reproduction by fragmentation, and in Marchantia we find a special cup-like structure present that is called as the gemma cup. And these gemma cup are normally eight shaped like structure, and they are very green in nature, and color green, and they are multicellular. And these gemma cups are stalked and asexual. They are stalked and they look like this is the gemma cup structure. And these gemma cups are formed on the dorsal surface. Yes, they are formed on the dorsal surface. And on the ventral surface, we find the rhizoids. On the margins, we find the scales are present. So this is the gametophytic plant. In the gametophytic plant, we find gemma cups are present, asexual mode of reproduction on the surface, whereas the sex organs, that is the antheridium archegonians, are present on special notch or groove-like structure. And now let's move into sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction, Marchantia, is by means of antheridia. Antheridia is the male sex organ and archegonium is the female sex organ. And these sex organs are present in groups. They are always present in groups. And the stalk that bears this antheridia is called as antheridiophore. And the archegonia, that is called as archegoniophore. So this is all about the gametophytic plant that we have discussed. Now after gametophytic plant, we go for the sporophytic plant. So sporophytic plant is the 2N plant. So how sporophytic plant is produced? Now, as we know in gametophytic plant, the male sex organ produces the N gamete and the female sex organ produces the N gamete. So both the gamete are united to produce the zygote. This is the zygote. And this zygote is the 2N. And the zygote develops into the sporophyte. So zygote is the initial stage of sporophytic plant. So what we got? We got zygote is the initial stage. It is the initial stage of sporophytic plant. Stage of sporophyte. So zygote is the initial stage of sporophytic plant. And the zygote is differentiated into three parts. The foot helps in fixation, the seta helps in conduction, and the capsule is the fertile part. But in Riccia we don't find the foot present, we don't find the seta present. It is an exception where only the capsule is present. So it is only capsule present. And so Riccia is considered as the simplest liverworts or the simplest bryophyte. Now let's go for the diagram. Here is the diagram. The lower part is the gametophytic plant, which is a leafy-like appearance, and the upper part is the sporophytic plant. So the sporophytic plant always depends on gametophytic plants because the gametophytic plants undergo photosynthesis and they prepare the food and store the foods. And from it we find the sporophytic develops. And this is the fertile part of the sporophytic plant capsule. And the sporophytic plants produce spore, and spore gives rise to the gametophytic plant. Spore is haploid. So spore is haploid and it gives rise to gametophytic plants. So spore is the initial stage of gametophytic plants. So this is the conduction part that is called as the seta, and here we find the fixation part that is called as the foot. So in liverworts we find two stages of plants present, two generations. One is sporophytic generation, one is gametophytic generation, but gametophyte is always dominant and sporophyte is always dependent on the gametophytic plant. So these are parasitic on gametophytic plants. Now let's move. And when we move the tissue contribution, the tissue is very simplistic form that is called as endothecium tissues are present. And this endothecium tissue helps in formation of spores and formation of nurse cells. Got it? So it helps in formation of spores and that is N, and also it helps in formation of nurse cells. And these nurse cells are normally diploid in nature. And it also contains amphithecium. Amphithecium forms the sporophyte wall. So there are two different types of tissue present. One is endothecium, another one is amphithecium. And a special character present that is called as elaters. And elaters is only restricted in the liverworts Marchantia. And elaters are regarded as the nurse cells, means they provide nourishment and also they do help in dispersal of this particular spores. So these elaters are diploid in nature and they are hygroscopic, means they absorb water and helps in liberating or dispersing the spores. The spiral and thickened bands. That normally the main function of elaters is and it is only restricted in Marchantia plant. Now let's move into the examples. So when we move the examples, Riccia is the simplest one. Marchantia, Cryptothallus, Rilla, Quelea, and Porella. Porella is a leafy thallus. Got it? So this is all about the liverworts, and in a long video we'll go for detailed descriptions. Okay, thank you for watching.